Romantic tension is one of the most powerful forces on earth. It is that quiet pull between two people that needs no explanation, no label, and no direct declaration, because the chemistry itself speaks louder than anything either person could put into words. The truth is that many people never notice when someone is silently revealing their attraction, but once you understand how to read these subtle signals, the whole dynamic changes. You stop guessing and start recognizing the current that already exists between you. Magnetic eye contact is one of the clearest and most intense signs of romantic tension because it bypasses thinking altogether. It feels instinctive, natural, and filled with meaning that neither person is ready to acknowledge out loud. When two people lock eyes and hold that gaze for just a breath longer than needed, the rest of the world seems to blur around them. That extra moment is never random. It is a glimpse into curiosity, desire, and the quiet battle to stay steady. In that small pause, both people feel something shift, like they have slipped out of ordinary behavior and into a more personal and open space. Even if the mind later tries to dismiss it, the body is honest in that instant. It responds with a quick surge of energy that exposes everything. That lingering look usually happens again and again, and each time it returns, it becomes harder to overlook. There is a rhythm to it. The glance appears, the gaze holds, one person breaks it first, and both of them feel the echo afterward. It feels as though an invisible pull keeps drawing them back, a pull neither fully understands but both quietly recognize. When this repeats, it builds a soft but unmistakable tension between them. The kind of tension that makes the air feel heavier when they stand near each other. What makes it even more interesting is that each person becomes sharply aware of the other's presence, even when they are not looking directly. They can sense when the other is watching, and that single awareness is its own sign that something deeper is forming beneath the surface. Part of what makes this form of eye contact so powerful is the emotional honesty behind it. Words can be chosen with care, tone can be controlled, but the eyes are often the last place where someone can hide their real feelings. They reveal attraction in ways the person may not yet be willing to voice. Sometimes the look appears because someone is drawn in without thinking. Other times it happens because they are studying the other person, admiring small details they would never dare mention. And when they get caught staring, the quick smile, startled expression, or soft flush that follows adds another layer to the tension. The entire moment becomes a private exchange that no one else notices, though both participants feel it strongly whether they planned it or not. Even a single moment of eye contact that lasts just 1 second too long can shift the entire tone of an interaction. It creates a charged pause filled with possibility, one that lingers long after the gaze has broken. People replay those seconds in their mind because they are filled with unspoken questions. Did they mean to look at me like that? Did I imagine the depth in their eyes? Was it just chance? These questions are where romantic tension begins. They stir curiosity, they heighten sensitivity, they turn ordinary moments into something alive and emotionally stirring. This is why one extended look can feel more significant than a compliment, a teasing remark, or even a light touch. At its heart, this kind of eye contact reflects something very human. It expresses the longing to connect in a way beyond words. It is a quiet language of its own, carrying attraction that feels personal yet unspoken, confident but careful, clear yet easy to deny. When two people keep falling into that same moment, when their eyes return to each other again and again, lingering with a softness they cannot fully explain, that is how you know the tension is not imagined. It is real, it is shared, and it grows stronger each time their eyes reveal a truth neither one has said aloud. Nervous energy is another one of the most telling signs of romantic tension because it unsettles a person's usual behavior. Even someone who is normally calm begins to show small shifts when they are near a person they feel drawn to. These subtle reactions, the quick smile that appears before they can stop it, the way their mouth suddenly feels dry, the slight change in posture, are the body's natural responses to emotional excitement. They show up before the mind can shape them, revealing a level of interest the person may not yet be ready to admit. These behaviors matter because they are so small and so easy to miss unless you know what to look for. Yet, they reveal the truth of attraction more clearly than anything spoken. The body reacts first and often exposes everything. These signs tend to happen in repeating patterns. A person may start adjusting their clothes more than usual, touching their hair or straightening their shoulders without thinking about it. This is not about being vain. It is instinctive. Being near someone they are drawn to heightens their awareness of how they appear, almost as if their body wants to look its best without them consciously deciding to do so. Even the voice may shift. It might grow softer, warmer, or just slightly uncertain. This is a physical response to emotional pressure, a sign that the person feels both excited and unsettled in a pleasant way. And each time that feeling rises, the same patterns repeat, sending signals that become clear once you understand their meaning. There is also a kind of restless energy that often appears. Someone might fidget with jewelry, tap their fingers, or shift their weight. These movements are not signs of discomfort. They are signs that the emotional intensity is building inside them. Their nervous system is trying to settle itself because being close to someone who matters triggers a level of energy that is hard to contain. That inner spark makes it difficult to stay perfectly still. These little movements are the extra energy escaping. They are not performing or trying to impress. They are trying to manage the rush that comes with standing near someone who affects them deeply. Micro-expressions play a strong part in this as well. These are tiny flashes of emotion that last less than a second. A brief widening of the eyes, a softening around the mouth, or a sudden brightness in the face. You see them most clearly when the person believes no one is watching. These expressions reveal interest or admiration before the mind has a chance to hide it. They appear in people who usually seem unreadable and controlled because they happen so quickly that no one can stop them. Because they are involuntary, they are some of the most reliable signs of genuine attraction. They cannot be faked and they cannot be covered up. They slip out naturally whenever the emotional tension rises. What makes nervous energy so compelling is that it shows vulnerability. It exposes the fact that the person cares about how they appear and how they are perceived. It reveals that they are moved by your presence in ways they cannot fully hide. And even though these signs are small, together they create a picture of growing tension. A picture that suggests the attraction is not one-sided. It is shared, even if neither person has spoken the truth yet. It shows that the person is affected, that their heartbeat changes, their breathing shifts, and their thoughts become a little less steady. That fragile moment is where romantic tension grows. It reveals that the interest is not casual or detached. It is personal. It carries weight. The person cares enough to feel unsettled, to worry about how they appear, to be pushed slightly off balance by the presence of someone who draws them in. And the more that nervous charge repeats, the stronger the tension becomes. It is the body's way of saying that this connection matters long before words ever rise to meet the feeling. The gravity effect is one of the most striking signs of romantic tension because it works almost entirely outside conscious intention. Two people who feel a pull toward each other drift closer without planning it. It is not a bold move, not an exaggerated lean, but a small shift, a step forward in conversation. A gentle tilt of the body pointing inward, a habit of staying near one another even when surrounded by others. It is the kind of behavior that only becomes obvious later when someone realizes they kept ending up in the same spot without knowing why. This unconscious pull creates a closeness that feels natural, and that ease is what makes it so telling. When emotional chemistry is alive, the body looks for nearness long before the mind admits what is happening. This pull grows in moments that seem ordinary. Sitting on opposite ends of a couch becomes sitting shoulder to shoulder. Standing across a room becomes finding excuses to drift into the same corner. Even while speaking to different people, the two move within arm's reach, as if their energy quietly settles them into the same orbit. That closeness often feels comfortable, steady, and oddly needed. Not simply because of physical desire, but because the emotional spark creates a sense of safety and anticipation. Being near the other person feels good in a way that is hard to explain logically, but unmistakable emotionally. And every time this closeness appears, it deepens the sense that something real is forming beneath the surface. There is also a particular tension in these moments, one that blends expectation with awareness, changing how both people move and breathe. When two people stand near enough to sense each other, even without touching, the air feels different. Breathing shifts, movement slow, and the mind becomes sharply aware of how small the distance has become. This type of nearness carries a quiet charge, the kind that needs no words to express interest. It feels as though the small space between them forms its own language, carrying truths neither person has spoken. Ordinary conversations begin to feel alive even when the topic is unimportant, because the real message is in everything left unsaid. Small, easily overlooked actions reveal even more. One person might step aside to let the other pass, but hesitate for a moment, lingering within inches. They may lean in to hear something they already heard. They may angle their body so they face the other even when not speaking. These tiny habits show a quiet wish to stay connected. It is not about showing off or looking a certain way. It is the natural desire to remain close, to hold the shared moment for a little longer. Every movement becomes a soft effort to keep that nearness alive. What makes this pull so telling is that it often works both ways. One person moves closer and the other does not step back. One shifts slightly and the other adjusts to keep the space unchanged. It becomes a slow, unspoken rhythm. Neither needs to comment on it. The repetition reveals everything. If it were one-sided, the pattern would fall apart. But when both drift toward each other's space again and again, it becomes a clear sign that the attraction is mutual, steady, and quietly intentional. That gentle merging of movements is one of the strongest signs of emotional chemistry. At its core, the gravity effect is about comfort, curiosity, and emotional pull. It is the body's way of saying, "I want to be near you," even when the mind tries to remain level. It is a truth that slips past conscious control. And when two people constantly find themselves drawn into each other's space without meaning to, there is nothing accidental about it. It is connection. It is tension. It is the silent proof that something meaningful is unfolding. Hyper-awareness is another strong sign of romantic tension because it changes how someone experiences the world around them. When a person feels drawn to someone, they begin noticing things they once ignored. Small gestures, tone shifts, slight changes in posture, even footsteps entering a room. It is not intentional. It rises naturally. Their attention becomes quietly pulled in, watching for cues, reactions, or chances to connect. This awareness does not feel forced. It simply happens as though attraction sharpens their senses. The other person's presence becomes something they track without realizing it. They sense details before anyone else notices anything at all. That level of attentiveness is never casual. It is emotional. In group settings, this becomes impossible to miss. No matter how crowded the room or how busy the conversation, the person they want stands out. They notice when that person moves, smiles, or grows quiet. Their attention may appear relaxed to others, but inside it is anchored in one direction. Even if they try to focus elsewhere, part of their awareness stays connected, checking for small changes. This is why someone can seem completely engaged in a conversation, but still react instantly to a faint shift in the voice or mood of the person they care about. That kind of quick instinctive responsiveness does not exist without deeper feelings. Hyper-awareness also appears in the way someone begins to anticipate reactions. They watch how the other person responds to humor, emotion, or subtle changes in tone. They see micro-expressions that most people overlook, and those impressions shape their own behavior without conscious effort. They might change their voice, soften their gaze, or select their words with more care. It is a natural adjustment to someone who matters to them. Their emotional radar becomes tuned to that one presence, often revealing the depth of their attraction long before they would ever speak it aloud. Their emotional antenna becomes sharply tuned, catching signals before the other person has even sorted their own reactions. This sensitivity is not an attempt to impress. It comes from feeling connected enough that the other person's mood carries weight. Romantic tension heightens this instinct and turns simple moments into something that feels more meaningful. Another element of hyper-awareness is the way it shifts a person's energy. Even when they try to remain steady, they may pretend to be calm, yet their eyes wander back, noticing tiny movements or small changes in expression. They hear their name more quickly when it comes from that particular person. They answer faster when spoken to by them than by anyone else. Their senses stay alert in a way that feels almost automatic, as if something inside them is always listening, watching, or waiting. Often they have no idea how clearly their heightened attention shows, or how easily others can see the change in their behavior. To someone on the outside, these reactions may seem ordinary, yet to someone who understands the signs, they are unmistakable. The emotional effect of this awareness is strong. It builds a sense of connection even before anything is said. The person becomes sensitive to moments that feel rare. A shared grin, a brief glance, a stillness in the middle of a conversation. These moments echo in their mind later, replayed and wondered about long after the interaction has ended. It is not obsession. It is emotional resonance. When romantic tension exists, even the smallest exchange feels like a spark. That spark keeps the awareness steady and strengthens the pull between them. The energy grows harder to ignore with each passing moment. In the end, hyper-awareness reveals a simple truth. Someone is paying close attention because they care. They stay tuned in because the other person's presence stirs something in them, excites them, unsettles them, or comforts them in ways they cannot yet put into words. This level of awareness does not appear in neutral relationships. It appears when the heart is involved, when curiosity deepens into attraction, and when unspoken feelings begin shaping behavior. And when two people are equally aware of each other, noticing the same shifts, responding to the same moments. That is when you know the tension is real, strong, and moving toward something neither has voiced yet. It feels like both are walking toward a space that neither planned to enter but both seem drawn to. Subtle protectiveness is one of the clearest signs of romantic tension because it rises quietly and carries emotional depth. It is not dramatic or showy. It is natural. When someone feels drawn to another person, their behavior softens in ways that reflect care, thoughtfulness, and instinctive concern. They become more patient, more aware of the other person's comfort, and more tuned into their needs without needing instruction. This protectiveness is not about control. It is about presence. It is a gentle shift in energy that quietly says, I notice you. I feel connected to you. I want you to feel at ease around me. Even if nothing is spoken, the difference is obvious, almost impossible to hide. This softness appears in small gestures that often go unnoticed. Someone may adjust their pace so they walk side by side. They may angle their body in a way that shields the other person from a crowded space, a loud moment, or an uncomfortable interaction. They offer a seat, hold a door a moment longer, or make room when needed. These motions are slight, yet they reveal an emotional layer beneath the surface. They are not offered out of duty. They happen because the person genuinely cares about how the other feels. Romantic tension often creates this smooth attentiveness in which simple choices are shaped by the desire to make the other person feel safe, understood, or comfortable. What makes this protectiveness so compelling is how instinctive it becomes. A person might lean in when they sense unease. They might bring the other person into a conversation so they do not feel left out. They might turn more observant when someone else speaks to the person they are quietly drawn to. These reactions are never planned. They rise from an emotional pull the person may not even recognize in themselves. The tension builds in these small behavioral shifts which are difficult to hide because they happen naturally. Even someone who normally stays distant or guarded softens when they are around someone they feel drawn to on an emotional level. Their voice changes, their posture shifts, their patience increases. Their interest becomes clear even when they try to disguise it. Another part of this subtle protectiveness comes from how someone notices when the other person's mood shifts. They respond quickly to a slight pause, a change in voice, or a flicker of discomfort. Their sensitivity grows as their emotional investment grows. They may ask a gentle question. They may step closer without thinking. They may offer a look that reassures without a word. None of this is meant to impress. It happens because attraction heightens their awareness and deepens their instinct to care. Romantic tension sharpens focus and encourages quiet behaviors that show consideration. This protectiveness becomes even more noticeable when others are around. A person may position themselves in a way that makes the other feel included. They may defend them lightly in conversation or encourage them when they sense uncertainty. In a group, their attention remains anchored, quietly watching, prepared to offer support if needed. They do not want to overstep, yet they want to be present. That balance of gentle support without pressure is one of the strongest signs that the emotional connection is genuine. It reveals a kind of emotional investment that cannot be faked. This form of protectiveness is, at its core, a sign of emotional openness. It shows that someone is affected enough to shift their behavior, to care, to move with more patience and intention. It reveals that the attraction holds depth, not just surface interest. And when the same softness is exchanged by both people, when the attention, awareness, and quiet protectiveness flow naturally in both directions, that is when the tension becomes unmistakable. It becomes the quiet bond forming beneath the surface, expressed through actions rather than declarations, sensed through energy rather than spoken aloud. It is the beginning of a connection that builds slowly, almost carefully, yet with undeniable strength. It also grows stronger through the pauses between moments. When the interaction ends and each person walks away, the mind stays active. One remembers how the other smiled or how their voice softened. Another replays a brief moment that felt strangely intimate. These reflections are not dramatic. They are simply the mind's way of acknowledging that something meaningful is forming. Sometimes the tension shows up through small hesitations. A slight breath before speaking, a pause before walking away, a glance over the shoulder. These tiny moments create a slow pull that neither person fully understands but both feel deeply, as though something important is waiting beneath the surface. There is also an unspoken patience that forms. A person might wait a little longer for the other to finish a thought. They may listen more closely, even to the ordinary details. They might linger in conversation, not because they need to, but because they enjoy the closeness. Attraction shows up in these quiet extensions of time. When two people feel this way, even silence becomes comfortable. A quiet moment between them feels calm rather than empty. It carries warmth, a sense that neither wants the interaction to end too soon. That comfort reveals more than any spoken confession could. Romantic tension often grows in the space between what is said and what is held back. It grows in the glances that last a second too long, in the shift of someone's voice when they say the other person's name, in the small gestures that seem simple but carry meaning. This subtlety is what makes the connection feel powerful. Nothing is rushed. Nothing is declared. Yet everything is felt. And when both people sense that same quiet pull, it becomes impossible to ignore the truth forming between them. It becomes the beginning of something that neither expected, but both secretly hoped for. There is a quiet promise in these moments, the kind that does not need explanation. Each interaction feels like a step toward a deeper understanding, the kind that forms slowly but stays steady. It is the early warmth of a bond that grows through instinct rather than intention, and both feel its presence even before they are ready to name it.